I was in Tokyo, Japan, a few years ago, and I had the incredible opportunity to experience this. You might have heard about these train pushers in Japan. It's bizarre, right? But context is everything. Japan packs a large population into a small space. These train workers may have the job of pushing commuters onto the crowded trains to ensure that the doors can close without trapping the commuters. Oftentimes, the people shoved onto the train thank the train employee, as from their perspective, the train employee is actually helping them. Now, if you think a commuter in New York City will respond differently to being shoved onto the train, it's only because you are using your own social culture perspective to understand that behavior. But if you take a thoughtful and empathetic approach to this situation, you will realize that as an experience, it is well designed for the Japanese consumer. Designing experiences is all about the end consumer. Many of you are probably familiar with this process of design thinking. It's what we designers are trained to do, and it's now being applied to situations beyond buildings or products or interior design or architecture. It makes total sense. It's actually quite intuitive. But I strongly believe that the best design experiences are the ones that are focused heavily on the first three parts of the process, on empathizing, defining, and ideating. Design thinking is all about empathy and really understanding what is relevant to people. And then being able to take those ideas and translate them into something tangible and something that you can share. But design thinking is not just about process. It's about the thinking individuals that drive that process. It's about their mindset, their values, their way of looking at the world. Design is very emotional. What do you think these people are in line for? You might have guessed correctly. They're outside an Apple store to get their latest product. They could get it later, but for some reason, they'd rather wait in lines, sometimes for over a day, to get those products. These people are not just there to get their phone or their iPads. These people are passionate about this brand. They have an emotional connection with it. And this is largely driven by the design thinking behind the product, as well as the retail experience. These products and these stores are so meaningful, they're so beautiful, that they have to have them. Apple has been able to change consumer behavior like no one else. We are emotional creatures. Some of us a little bit more than others. So why not use emotional design to really influence the behavior of consumers? Now, what is emotional design? Emotional design is the practice of considering the emotional responses people have to products and leveraging those responses as part of the design process to produce a particular experience or product. So by us understanding deeply how people respond to a product and using those insights to create and leveraging them, we can create better products. And that is why empathizing and ideating over and over again before you launch a product are the most critical parts of the design thinking process. Let me show you an example that approaches design with a high emotional lens. This is a Brazilian favela, which means slum in Portuguese. The favelas are infamous shanty towns that grew along the margins of urban areas in Brazil. They have no formal infrastructure and certainly no building codes or regulations. But if the favelas are a picture of poverty and neglect, they're also a marvel of resourcefulness and creativity. And that ingenuity is what inspired the Brazilian designers Campana brothers to create this piece. At a first glance, it appears to be a designer's indulgence in the impractical. But it's actually quite the opposite. It was created as a no technology required solution based on the resourcefulness of the people who live in these favelas. The first one was produced near a fruit market where there was plenty of scrap wood available. The Campana brothers used glue and nails to connect one piece of wood to the other with no rationality beyond the goal of just making a chair. So even something with a negative social cultural connotation can actually be inspirational. And you can see here how they took this same idea further into this restaurant design. So when people come into this restaurant, they definitely know that there's something very special about those columns, and that the designer is trying to tell a deep emotional story. All right, I too also worked for Starbucks for a little bit, and I want to show you some of the work we did there. I was there for 5 years, and Starbucks does a great job creating really emotional experiences, but also experiences that speak to a very local consumer. Even for a company that has over 30,000 stores, they still manage to create very localized experiences. The first example is in Japan. About 9 years ago, we were having trouble creating an identity for that market. We're basically importing the American-style store, and no one was really interested. So instead of creating a design strategy ourselves for Japan, we decided to hire a famous Japanese architect. And this was very uncomfortable for us, to accept that he was the expert and that we needed his perspective, versus us designing the store from Seattle, which is what we did for a long time. His design was a huge departure for us, but instead of fighting it, we embraced it. After the store was built, a whole change in how, on the process of designing stores was put in place, and the market started creating stores that were truly inspiring and original. And let me show you one more example. We call this the container store. This is a perfect example of innovation driven by really understanding the end user, but also in this case, the limitations we had on the site. We could not secure the site for a long-term lease. So it was a performance opportunity that was solved with a unique design solution. Only a few years before, we would have just said no to this opportunity. But instead, we embraced it and we used it to create something iconic. We built the store out of shipping containers as a temporary structure that will later be moved to a different location. And the store paid also tribute to the transportation industry, which was very appropriate in the location in which the store was in. The store won all sorts of awards, including one from the American Institute of Architects. And after the store was built, a whole program of prefabricated stores was launched. All right, let's talk about the hospitality industry. There are many small boutique brands doing an amazing job creating beautiful experiences for a very specific customer in very specific locations. Ace Hotels is a great example of the right balance between emotional design, also very functional design, and value. Ace Hotels have become social community hubs in the cities where they're in. And I believe that a big part is driven by emotional design. This is much more than just a trendy place to be seen at. They're creating authentic, meaningful experiences that truly resonate with their young target guests. Now, sometimes we can overdo it. Many brands create designs that are trendy, they're provocative, they're even memorable in some way. But we also have seen how those designs don't stand the test of time. This is when you see that over-design was not done for the right reasons. It does not generate the right connection with the guests to really influence their long-term buying behavior. The chances of this customer becoming truly loyal to the brand are very slim. All right, let me shift to Marriott. One of the questions I get all the time is about all these brands we have and what's the architecture behind it. So here's I'm revealing the secret. Almost 3 years ago, we acquired Starwood, and with that came 11 new brands. So we created this matrix here, and we still look at the brands by tier, but we also define them as classic brands versus distinctive brand. And that helps us a lot inform how we do work around those brands. And we always get asked the million-dollar question, are you getting rid of any of the brands? And don't worry, loyal customers, we're not. In order to create meaningful experiences that really resonate with a unique target guest, we found that we actually need all these brands so that the experiences can be truly differentiated. Let me show you some of the work we're doing with the Marriott brand, which is what we call our flagship brand. So here's a typical guest room. Can you guess where this is? It's actually in Beijing, but I could argue that it could be anywhere. And in fact, it was. For a long time, you could find the same exact room in Seattle, in Charlotte, in London, in Buenos Aires. But over the last 6 years, we've embarked in a transformation for the Marriott brand. We're now connecting with the local markets, and we're learning about them at a deep emotional level. And we're learning what resonates with them and using those social cultural insights to influence design. So today, if you stay in Charlotte, North Carolina, you will find a rich history of craftsmanship and furniture building as part of the design of the guest room. In the coast of Shenzhen in China, the connection with the outdoors is carried through the design with artwork that reflects the local geography. And in Oakland, California, the use of industrial materials and local woods throughout the property pay tribute to the city's past and present. Okay, finally, I want to share with you some of the work we've been doing with the Sheraton brand. After the Starwood acquisition, we determined as a company that one of our biggest priorities is to really transform Sheraton into a leading brand in the premium hospitality segment. And we're definitely using emotional experiential design to come up with that next generation of hotels. Sheraton has an incredible, strong brand recognition. As the first hotel to land in many cities around the world, Sheraton has long been the fabric of communities across the globe. 80 years old, our deep roots in communities deliver worldwide acceptance and trust. I grew up in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and Sheraton was always the place where any important gathering would happen. It was a place where people came together to work, to meet, or just to relax. It's our most global brand with over 450 properties in more than 70 countries, and will be in 90 countries by 2020. We like to describe the spirit of Sheraton as the power of we over the power of me. We believe that together we are better. We believe the sum is always greater than the individual parts. We call our target guests the team player, and these individuals are here for the greater good. They're highly dependable, they're strong, secure, and they have a story that they want to share. So with that rich heritage as our backdrop, our community mindset, and our team player in mind, we came up with a new positioning for the Sheraton brand. We are positioning Sheraton as the world's gathering place. Sheraton unifies the world. We are where experiences are shared and differences are unified. We are for the community over the individual, the team over the star. We're an open, inclusive community. This positioning truly came to life through the practice of emotional design. We went around the world and we leveraged the emotional responses people have when they think about the Sheraton brand, and we used those responses to create this new experience. So with that positioning, my team was tasked to come up with, okay, what are the hotels going to look and feel? The new strategy for Sheraton across brand, operations, and design was inspired by the idea of a public square. Throughout history, the public square has served as a foundation of communities across the globe. And we've studied how these open spaces invite people to join together or be alone amongst others, providing a sense of energy and belonging, which is exactly what we're trying to achieve with the new Sheraton vision. The strategy comes to life with 3 design principles. The principle of fluid, which speaks to the spatial layout of the public areas. Sheraton is comprised of blended, multi-dimensional spaces with a flow that is intuitive, natural, and uncomplicated. The fluid of stylish essentials is how do we look and feel? What is the aesthetic of Sheraton? The brand aesthetic is about creating an inviting space that through signature basics feels warm, comfortable, and refined. And the principle of holistic. The success of this brand requires integrated spaces, so when we look at food and beverage, operations, design, and technology, they work together as a unified kit of parts. Our target guest is looking for support in 3 areas when they're traveling and staying with us: working, meeting with others, and also a space that is conducive of relaxing. So to support work, we developed a new approach to collaborative community tables, our phone booths, and also Access by Sheraton, which is our new app that we developed that allows guests to do anything from ordering food anywhere they are in the public space, all the way to be able to book a private studio to conduct a business meeting. To support work, the studios, our members lounge, and the new role of a community manager enable our guests to suit their meeting needs. And to support moments of relaxation, we have a new streamlined food and beverage philosophy, a veil of our experience, and also the coffee bar, which is our new approach to delivering food and drink on demand 24 hours a day. Now, we also recognize that with Sheraton being a global brand, our guests expect each Sheraton to have its own personality, as well as a global thread. So when we develop a new hotel, we ensure that our franchisees understand our brand core values. We also ensure that during the design development of the project, they follow our design principles. But we also ask them to develop their own design narrative to ensure that the project and the design are local relevant and fit in within the local fabric of the hotel's community. So here's some renderings of an existing hotel that is currently going under renovation. You can see all the ideas I just talked about come to life. You can see the coffee bar concept, which is the heart and soul of the space, a community table that is both perfect for gathering or working alone amongst others. You can see the fluidity of the spaces and how spaces transition from work to meeting to relaxing. And hopefully you can also see a design aesthetic that is stylish, yet very approachable and timeless. And here's my last slide. When we think about all the things I just talked about, you can think about this pyramid here. Most products and brands tend to be on the lower portion of this pyramid, in the functional and reliable space. The companies that are truly influencing consumer behavior are above the dotted line. And these are the companies that take emotional design to the next level and look at design as an experience versus individual design practices. The greatest challenge is in making the leap across the dotted line. And in order to make that jump, the key is to establish a design culture that embraces emotional design and experiential design. The key is to understand deeply what is it that the consumer wants and give it to them consistently. Thank you.